Hello and welcome. I'm so excited about our show tonight. We're in for a treat. With me today is the Education Program Manager from the Raptor Center at the University of Minnesota College of Veterinary Medicine. Gail Buhl is here. She is a naturalist, and she has brought with her a peregrine falcon, a great horned owl, and a bald eagle. And I will welcome Gail now and our falcon. So
thank you. Very nice
great to see you.
And this is a peregrine falcon. We call her Artemis, and she is one of our education ambassadors at the Raptor Center.
And every bird, you and I were just clarifying this, so I was asking you, every bird at the Raptor Center, Gail, is a bird that has been injured or hurt in some way.
Correct. We have our clinic, our hospital, so to speak, takes in injured and orphaned raptors between 700 and 800. And actually, we've broken the 800 mark already this year. And so the goal for the clinic is to try to get the birds back out into the wild. The education department, which is what I am part of, we have 33 permanently injured raptors that cannot be released to the wild, but they get to learn a new job, and that new job is being a teacher and going out to classrooms across the state, as well as going to scout programs and community programs, even county fairs and state fairs, to let people get a beak-to-nose experience with live birds.
Beak to nose.
Beak to nose, to hopefully give them a chance to see what our natural areas are really like and our natural neighbors are, and how important they are to our environment.
The Raptor Center here is one of the premier raptor centers in the world.
Yes, it is.
And why are we given that wonderful distinction? What about this center sets you apart?
I think when the Raptor Center started in 1974, and we're at the College of Veterinary Medicine at the University of Minnesota, and the two people who co-founded the Raptor Center were very interested. There was a researcher, Dr. Gary Duke, and then Dr. Pat Reddick. He was a student at the time, and he is a veterinarian, and he was a falconer. And Dr. Gary Duke was very interested in owl physiology, how owls work on the inside. And Dr. Pat Reddick was also interested in that, but he was also a falconer, so he flew birds like peregrine falcons for hunting. And so they wanted to study that, so they contacted the Minnesota DNR and said, do you have any injured owls that people are calling about that we might be able to study? Well, that kind of opened the floodgates, so to speak. And not only did they realize that they could do some studying and really figure this out and how owls really work, but at the same time, they figured out, you know what, we think we can fix some of these injuries we see are coming in. And so that was the germ of how it started. Now, why in Minnesota is we are on the Mississippi Flyway. We are on one of the migratory pathways, the major migratory pathways for many, many birds, including many raptors. So many raptors right now are passing through this area, and a lot of them get into trouble. So we're kind of this area where a lot of raptors are. And so that, of course, gave us a lot of opportunity to take care of a lot of raptors, learn a lot about raptors. Because we're at a university and we're a teaching institution and always trying to learn, trying to figure things out, it's always a process of how do we fix these birds better? What can we learn from them? And by that, we've pioneered many different techniques in the surgical, especially in the surgical arena, on how to fix these birds so we can get them back out into the wild. And not just the surgical, but how to take care of them before and after, how to exercise them properly and get them ready to go back.
So we're just doing those things better and with more birds than other centers.
Yes, in a lot of ways. And because we're a teaching institution, we're international in scope because we do try to attract veterinarians from around the world.
I read a wonderful quote on your website, and it said, every bird admitted provides a clue to the health of the ecosystems we share.
That is a great quote.
Isn't that a great quote? Tell us what that means to you.
So not just the Raptor Center, but a lot of the university, especially the medical areas, the College of Veterinary Medicine, the medical school dentistry is underneath the Academic Health Center. And a lot of us have realized over the years that it's not just about livestock, it's not just about humans, and it's not just about wildlife. We are all connected. And how are we connected, and how do we influence each other? And all of those things are very, very important. And so that quote is a very important one that you pulled out, because that's also what we do. It's not just fixing the individual birds.
Some of our raptors have been endangered because of what we're doing as humans, and the pesticide issue, et cetera, has been a big problem with peregrine falcons for
exactly. They are the
DDT.
top of the food chain predators, right? Humans are top of the food chain predators. So what is going on in the environment is often reflected in what is happening with their populations. DDT, like you mentioned, very, very important turning point in raptor conservation and all types of conservation, when we realized that DDT wasn't just out there killing insects like we wanted it to, it was affecting many, many other populations, including peregrine falcons, including bald eagles. And their populations dropped tremendously because of the use of that chemical. But even though that chemical DDT has been banned since the 1970s, these birds still face a lot of threats. Now, peregrine falcons came off the endangered species list in 1999, and they are doing very well. And in fact, in Minnesota, our goal was to have 20 pairs, breeding pairs of peregrine falcons in the state. And that was the goal, to get them off the endangered species list in Minnesota. We are over 100 pairs right now.
Oh, that's great. Just
it's
since
wonderful
99.
News. Yes, it's wonderful news.
The characteristics of what makes a raptor are fascinating. First of all, the talons. And I'm wondering if we can get a close-up of these marvelous talons, which are powerful, and obviously you're protected with the great glove. But,
and this is how raptors get their name. Raptors get their name because of their feet and catching their food with their feet. And that's very different than other predatory birds. A bird like a heron or even like a robin are grabbing their food with their beak, where raptors are catching their food with their feet. And so all raptors, and we have other feet here too, and you can touch those. One is from a red-tailed hawk and one is from a great horned owl. If you look, the claws at the end of the toes are called talons, and that's from a red-tailed hawk right there. And they are very, very powerful. And also the toes and the legs use a lot of tendon power, so it's not a lot of muscle power there. So they're built very differently than a lot of other species of birds.
Yes, very different.
And then there are other characteristics. Of course, raptors just eat other animals. They're not eating anything else.
They're eating mice, they're eating moles and voles
and fish and
rabbits.
Snakes and lots of rabbits. Now, peregrine falcons are just eating birds. That's all they eat. And in fact, to catch those birds, peregrines do it in a very interesting way, because they catch feathers everywhere. They catch the birds in the sky. And so they're aerial hunters, and because of that, these birds, they're dive bombers. They're often called bullet hawks. They're not a hawk, they're a falcon, but these birds can dive over 200 miles an hour. They're the fastest animal on Earth.
I want to have you repeat that, 200 miles an hour.
In a dive.
Fastest animal on Earth.
Yep, the dive is called a stoop, and these birds are incredibly fast.
And how long of a distance, how much altitude do they have to go that far and that fast?
They often like to hunt at about 1,000 feet in the sky. They can hunt lower for sure, but at 1,000 feet is a pretty good distance for them, so that they can
really angle the right
and
way.
Often when they're diving, they don't dive straight down. They will dive in a circular pattern.
Really?
If you've ever put,
we're talking.
She's got something to say. She's seeing herself on the monitor, I think. I will try to give her a piece of food, see if we can't distract her. But these birds, when they dive, if you've ever put...
look at the feathers.
Yeah, you're going to see exactly how these birds eat here. She's going to grab. She's eating quail today, and quail is, of course, a bird, and it's one of her favorites.
That's a big hunk for her.
It is, and so what she's doing with her feathers is, because she keeps looking into the monitor, is called mantling. So she's protecting that food from that bird.
It's mine. It's mine.
It's mine. It's mine.
Look at that.
You can't take it away from me.
Wonderful.
So I'm going to see if I can't get her eating a little bit more with a tinier piece of food she wants. There she goes. She's going to eat it. So if you've ever put a coin in a donation bucket that spins,
right,
and as the coin goes closer and closer to the middle, it goes faster and faster and faster, That's what they use. They use that centrifugal force to help them fly faster. Another characteristic of raptors, which these birds certainly employ when they are catching their birds, is eyesight. Raptors have excellent, excellent eyesight. And in fact, with diurnal raptors, in particular peregrine falcons, they have two places in their eyes that they can focus. They can focus directly on, just like I'm looking at you, but they can also focus at a 45-degree angle. So when they're diving in that circular pattern...
So they see out of the sides.
Exactly. They can keep their head straight. They're actually not diving with their wings out. Their wings are folded in.
Tucked, okay.
Hence the nickname bullet hawk. And so that way they can keep their eyes on the prize until the very last moment when they have to slow down anyway. Then they look at their prey directly on, and then they slow down and grab it with their feet.
The wings and the gorgeous pattern here, is that partly for hiding from other? I mean, would a peregrine be a prey of an eagle?
Not necessarily. In fact, I've seen a lot of peregrine falcons chase eagles off and away from their nesting area, even though eagles really are not a threat to them. The peregrine looks at the bird as being a threat and tries to chase them away. They're pretty formidable, but it is a form of camouflage. It's called counter shading, and a lot of predators employ counter shading to help them out. And so the bird is lighter underneath and darker on the back. So
gorgeous coloring.
It is stunning. And if I was a bird and I was flying below the peregrine falcon, I would look up, and the lighter pattern underneath blends in more with the clouds in the sky.
Right.
And
so harder to see.
Much harder to see.
Yes.
And if I was a bird and I'm flying off to the side and I look and she happened to be flying against something like a cliff and all I could see was her back, I actually wouldn't see her back. She would blend in with her background there.
You know, speaking of the eyesight, I read, and I want to see if this is true yet, or if it is a fact, that a peregrine falcon could sit at the end of a football field and read the small print in the want ads of a newspaper at the far end of the football field.
It's not quite that good.
Not quite that
but
good.
it's almost. It's almost. Another way to look at it is if I put her on the top of a light pole, like on a freeway, so you know about how high they are. They can be about 40 feet or so. When we are measured for eyesight, we're doing it at 20 feet. That's why it's, if they say, someone says you have 20/20 vision, that's what they're talking about. Well, most of the raptors, especially the medium-sized raptors, they can do the same as we can at 20 feet at 40 feet.
Okay, so double what we could.
Double. So
but not at the end of the football field
correct.
for either of us, right? Okay.
But she probably could read you the headlines pretty easily. So, but not the fine print and not the comics. So,
just because we only have 30 minutes, I'm wondering if we shouldn't say goodbye to Artemis.
Oh,
and bring
yes, we should.
Our
Wow,
great-horned owl.
I can't wait. She's been talking back there.
Yes, some of you may hear a sound in the background, and you're wondering, what is that? It's our owl.
Is a skull from a great horned owl, and it is definitely showing off the other characteristic of raptors, which is their curved beak. That curved beak that comes to a point is built for biting and tearing and biting and ripping. And so all raptors have that characteristic, but that's a skull of a great horned owl. And you can also see on that particular skull how large or where the eyes would be in an owl.
Oh, they're huge, aren't they, in proportion to the skull?
They're very large. And raptors' eyesight, generally, their eyes are about a third of the size of their skull. So it takes up a lot of space. Now, she's also in this kennel over here. Take me just a moment.
So all raptors have a unique beak. They have the talons. They have the eyesight. Oh, here comes our next bird, folks. And you said she's been talking because she's hungry?
She's hungry. She is also, the reason that she is at the Raptor Center is that this particular bird is known as an imprint. That means that when she was young, someone found her as a young chick, thought that they knew how to take care of her, brought her home, and raised her. And when her eyes opened up and started to clear, instead of seeing great horned owls, she started seeing humans. So she started associating humans with food and shelter and everything else. Now, it doesn't mean, this process is called imprinting. It doesn't mean that she thinks she's a person or that we're owls, but unfortunately she's stuck permanently someplace in between. And what that means is she doesn't react toward humans normally, and she certainly doesn't react to her own kind normally. And that causes her to be unreleasable to the wild, which is unfortunate.
So that's the only reason.
That's the only reason.
She's with you. Notice, everybody, how she turns her head 180 degrees. Right?
They actually can turn their head farther than that.
Even further? Okay,
yeah, and in
let's
fact,
see if
most people, and she might as she's looking around here, most people will ask me, well, don't owls turn their head all the way around? And my reply is there's actually no animal that can turn their head all the way around, because if they could, it would eventually unscrew and fall on the floor.
It does sound painful, doesn't
it's pretty painful. However, owls can turn their heads 3/4 of the way around a circle either direction. So 270 degrees to the left, but then they have to bring their head back, and then 270 degrees to the right. And then they have to bring their head back, and she's showing off just a little bit there.
Now look at her furry talons, or feet.
Yeah, feet and with the feathers, yes. Now great horned owls and many owl species have feathers everywhere except for the bottom of their feet, their beak, and their eyeballs. Her eyelids have feathers on them.
They do.
And and her beak doesn't have any feathers too.
But see that when we look closely.
Oh, really? And these birds are designed for the winter.
Now, this bird we would find up in the northern Minnesota winters, staying here all winter.
Not just in northern Minnesota,
Wisconsin,
right here in the Twin Cities.
And in the Twin Cities.
Oh, definitely.
Okay.
They're very adaptable birds. They don't make their own nests. They take over an old nest from a crow or a red-tailed hawk or something like that. So these birds also nest earlier than any other birds in Minnesota. So they're starting nesting in January and February. And many people will start hearing these really start hooting and calling come December.
And do they only come out at night? We think of owls at night.
We do. A lot of people think that owls are just nocturnal, and that's not true. There are some owls that are diurnal or come out during the daytime, and there are some owls, like great horned owls, that are crepuscular. Thank you for letting me say my favorite word. I love that word.
Say it one more time.
Crepuscular.
Crepuscular.
Great word. And what it means is dawn and dusk. So these birds, they can hunt in the middle of the night, but they are most active just as it's getting dark and just as it's getting light.
Now, is this the largest of the owls?
It depends on what you mean largest. I mean, if you mean
terms
largest
of
by height or largest
or
by weight.
I'm thinking height.
Then no.
No.
The largest owl we have in Minnesota by height is the great gray owl, which if I had a great gray owl sitting on my hand, would be about
that
this
much
high.
bigger. Okay.
But the great gray
But
owl
we've
does
got
not
some-
weigh very much.
No, and I mean, we're talking 1 pound, 2 pounds.
2 pounds, 2 to 3 pounds for a great gray
Which is-
owl, and a bird like this weighs about, well, she's weighing in at about 3 pounds.
I know, that is such a fun fact because we would guess much higher just looking at the bulky look.
Yeah.
We only have 10 minutes left, so I think we should say goodbye to this beautiful owl and bring on
If you
our
could give me
eagle.
just 30 more seconds,
Of
I have
course,
something I
of
would
course.
love to show your viewers.
Oh, of course.
Birds like this, they're hunting all different types of animals. These are generalists. They're eating rabbits, they're eating squirrels, they're eating other birds, they're eating mice, they're eating lots of different kinds of animals. But when a bird like this is sitting on a stump or in a tree, what they're doing is they're not chasing after what they want to catch, they wait. So they're stealth hunters. When they spot or listen and found what they want to catch, they'll start to fly, and owls fly completely silent. And I have a wing here that you can touch here in a minute.
Let's look at that.
And then when they are reached close enough to catch the animal, they'll reach down with their feet and hopefully catch it. Now, let's say it's a mouse.
Okay.
In my pouch, I gave the Peregrine Falcon a piece of quail, but in my pouch here, I have a whole mouse that I would like. Do you think she knows what's going on?
I think she's got an idea of something's coming.
She does. So in a moment, I will go ahead and feed her this mouse. It's a dead mouse.
Okay.
It's dead, but it is a whole mouse. But it's a very interesting, fun process to watch. And I think she's going to be very cooperative. So here we go.
Oh my goodness.
And
Right down the hatch.
down the hatch. So
oh my goodness.
You notice.
Gulp, gulp, gulp.
Gulp, gulp, gulp. Now, she cannot you saw her eat everything, but her body can't quite use all of it. So tomorrow, she will cough up, or what it's called casting, a pellet. On the inside of that pellet will be the bones that she cannot digest, and on the outside will be the fur, feathers of whatever she ate the day before. And a lot of students actually dissect owl pellets in the classroom. And if you like to be a detective, it's a wonderful exercise for lots of people.
Interesting.
So, thank you for letting me show that.
Of course,
and I will be right back with the eagle. But this way, the first wing is the Peregrine Falcon.
Okay.
And then the second wing,
you're getting Max, the eagle,
is the great horned owl.
So here we have a falcon, beautiful, beautiful wing with the different colors. And then this is the owl. Look at this. And to think, Gail, that they are silent and they're this big.
And can you tell the difference when you feel the Peregrine Falcon wing versus when you feel the the owl wing?
Yes.
It's very different. And so what is the difference? What do you
feel?
Well,
this one's rougher and softer.
Softer.
This one is smoother and harder.
Exactly.
The Peregrine.
And that is
part
the
of the
owl
speed.
Being able, the softness of that owl wing allows it to fly silently. On the leading edge of that wing, that great horned owl wing is a right wing. On the leading edge, there's also edges, it almost looks like a comb when you hold it up to the light, that also breaks up the air as the birds are flying.
Wow. Well, folks, here comes the amazing eagle that I think we're all just in awe of in our country.
So, of course, this is our national symbol, the bald eagle. And in Minnesota, we have a nice, healthy population of bald eagles.
And the wing spread is 6 to 8 feet, right?
Well, it's actually, we see a lot of 5-foot bald eagles, and then her wingspan is about 6 feet.
Okay.
And this is a female.
How old is she?
She is 13 years old, but bald eagles don't get their white head or tail, yellow beak or yellow eyes until they're at least 5 years old.
Oh, she's just gorgeous.
Yep.
So if we saw an eagle flying that was under 5, they'd have the dark head, and we might even say, is that a hawk or an eagle?
Right, or even a vulture. Some people will confuse it with a vulture. But often, when they're first leaving the nest, they're almost all brown with a little bit of white. The closer they get to 5, the more they have white splattered all over their bodies. And then the closer they get to 5, between 5 and 6, they'll have more white in their head, more white in their tail, and more yellow in their beak and in their eyes.
Now, her beak is so prominent.
Yes.
I mean, it's more prominent than the other raptors, isn't it? Is that because she eats things like fish that need more attacking?
No, I think it's just, you thought I had more food, didn't you? She just thought I had another piece of food for her there, and I don't.
Well, it's fun to see the wings come out.
Yes. So the curved beak that comes to a point is a characteristic of raptors. All of them have it, and they're just proportional to the size of the bird. So the bigger the raptor, the bigger the beak. And these birds are fish eaters, and Minnesota is a great place to see bald eagles because we have a lot of water. That's also how they got DDT in their bodies, is that DDT washed off of our farmers' fields into the waters, got into the fish. They came off the endangered species list in 2007. They still face a lot of challenges because these birds not only eat fish and waterfowl, they're also scavengers, and they eat a lot of dead deer along the side of our roads.
Yes.
And during the fall season, when we have a lot of deer hunters out and they leave gut piles behind after they field dress their deer, it's a great source of food for lots of species of animals, including scavengers like bald eagles. Unfortunately, if the deer were shot with lead, there's often small fragments of lead in the gut piles. And this particular bird, she was found by the roadside up near Moorhead, Minnesota, 13 years ago. She has a permanently dislocated elbow on one of her wings, but she also came in with lead poisoning. And we get between 110 and 120 injured and orphaned bald eagles every year in our clinic. 90% of them come in with exposure to lead. 25 to 30% of that 90% come in with lead poisoning. And there are solutions to it, and the easiest solution is using non-toxic ammunition.
And is that something that our hunting population is being taught or educated about?
There's certainly been a big push to try to educate the hunting population and a lot of definitely responsible hunters who like to see bald eagles around are certainly looking into it and trying to switch.
I read that the nests they make can weigh up to a ton, Gail.
They
Is
can.
that correct?
Yeah, they can.
A
These
ton.
birds, part of their courtship ritual is to build on that same nest year after year. And so the nest every year gets a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger. So would you like another piece? I think she wants another piece.
Is she having quail or what is the
No, she's
diet
having,
here?
she's getting a rat.
Oh.
And that's one of her very favorites. Fish is not her favorite, even though a lot of eagles eat fish and love fish. But rat at the Raptor Center is her favorite. So that's what we're giving her tonight.
Now, you said she came off the endangered list in 2007. How many approximately do we have in Minnesota?
Oh,
now?
goodness, I know you're going to ask me that question, and I forgot to double check my numbers. The Minnesota DNR flies over in the wintertime about every 3 years to count nests and then do an estimation. And if I remember right, we may have to double check my numbers. I think there were 1,300 pairs of bald eagles at last count. So that's pretty high. We have the highest population of bald eagles in the lower 48. Wisconsin, we go back and forth with Wisconsin all the time. And then the other state that has a lot of bald eagles is Florida, which is surprising. Alaska, of course, has the most.
And then the golden eagle is primarily found in the west.
That's correct. We do have a very small wintering population of golden eagles down near Wabasha. And they've been doing some telemetry studies, and some of those birds are summering and breeding in Canada, and they're spending their winters with us.
Well, this is just fascinating. If you would like to learn more about the Raptor Center or go over and visit, they're open every day except Monday. You can check their website. It's www.theraptorcenter.org. And I know you always are looking for volunteers, of course for donations, to keep the fabulous program going. And to think that you're going all over the state to do educational things. I mean, what a treat for kids.
It is great to be able to
this.
bring these birds into a classroom. And we do about 1,000 programs a year.
Well, thank you so much for coming down to help us learn more about raptors, Gail, and to see these gorgeous birds. It's just a wonderful treat.
Oh, you're very welcome. It was our pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you for being with us. We'll be back again next week. Until then, have a good week.